Stick it in raw.
Okay, you literally said that as we went live. Here we are. We're here, and Longo is queer. So let's see what happens tonight. For those for those in Florida, this is a Florida hurricane special because we do have a hurricane about to hit the state. And what a better way to spend that time while waiting for this thing to hover over us than by talking about some architecture, some old world stuff. So,
right.
Is your boy still coming, Longo, or no?
Yeah, but we can get started without him.
All right. Well,
surprise guest.
A surprise guest, yes.
Cameo.
A local celebrity, if you will. Some person that's been in the limelight as of late. But yeah, I'll introduce myself. I'm Juan from the Juan podcast. I think this is going to be a Coquina Cowboys episode. I'm not 100% sure. And then we have, for the first time, Homie Romie meeting Dr. Longo. Romie, can you plug your stuff so people can find you?
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me on. Coquina Cowboys. Great name. Great concept. Great everything. It's a pleasure to be here, boys. I am the co-host of Rising from the Ashes podcast. We go in on alternative history. We do deep dives each month on different topics. And sometimes we group 2 months together. You know, obviously, if you're going into pre-Columbian America, it's a whole lifetime of research. But anyways, we have fun monthly topics. This month, we're focusing on paranormal and earthen energetics. So talking to people about paranormal experiences and crossing that with different, things like ley lines and other sacred sites and resonance and so on and so forth. The plasma beings that are intertwined within all of the good things rising from the ashes. Stoked to be here. Juan and I have done resonance architecture stuff before. Very, 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 very interested in it. Understanding more about it every fucking day. And this is going to be great.
Right on. And the man of the hour that is always late, no matter how many times he texts me that he's ready to go. I'm going to change your name to Dr. Longus. I like that. I like that better. Longus. For my listeners, bro, where can people find you? I mean, we're streaming on both channels at the moment, so.
Oh, nice.
You're muted, bro. Come on, dude.
They know where to find me, Juan. Let's not play any games.
Oh, yo, can we address something, bro? Do I treat you badly? We got that comment that they said that I mistreat you at the Juan podcast. Is that true, bro? How do you feel about that? Do I mistreat you?
I don't know. I take my comments with sugar, not salt.
So
that's right. Stack it on, man. You got to get all the palate flavors going on.
What is it? Will you aerate it? Like you aerate it or whatever? Have you seen that meme, dude? That video?
Of course.
What is it about Florida people, Florida men and women, that for some reason, whenever a hurricane is about to come, they turn into fish, like the Nomos people or something, and they buy up all the water. It's like this weird thing. Is there anything astrologically pointing towards that, Dr. Longo, of why people buy so much water when there's a hurricane about to come?
Well, I mean, Florida's the fish. Florida's the fish of America. It's the think about it. You got 48 states original, right? 2 of them got added on. Well, if you divide those 48 by 12, you get kind of 4 sets of zodiac signs. And we know Florida's the last state. Pretty much. I could be wrong. Could be wrong on that. It could be like the 47th, but basically it is the fish is the last sign of the zodiac. You have the fish, right? When a hurricane comes through, all the water, like we saw Tampa Bay, all the water got sucked out, right? That was pretty trippy. So, I mean, don't know what else there is to say about it other than that.
I wonder, is there a machine that is able to extract humidity into drinking water, to extract the water out of the air and the vapors and condense it into some sort of drinking water? Is that a thing? Because here in California, where we have massive droughtage, right? Like we're the complete opposite of you guys. If you guys are the fish, we're the we're the dried up sponge chilling on the beach, you know, like just please, like just get some water. Would love that. But we can't have any desalination plants, right? Like they are absolutely against having desalination plants, which would save so much. You know, we're not going to drain the ocean with the little bit of, you know, population that we have here. And, you know, it seems like it's, I don't know, this is a strange tangent to get into, but, you know, the control on different resources of water, I think there's a lot more accessible ways to get water that we could use technology for, but it's not really a tapped into market because water needs to be highly controlled at some higher echelons of sorts.
And it's weird, right? Because it comes from the ground, and they literally just they add stuff to it, they bottle it, and then they sell it right back to you. Where it's literally the fountain of youth. I mean, you've covered that before, right, Longo? Where it's people live longer, it's healthier, and the reason why I say people freak out and there's people in the chat like, whoa, there's no electricity and there's no water. Well, that's why you have like a machine to distill water or something, or reverse osmosis. You plug it into your power generator and you put in tap water from wherever. And I always fill up this garbage can, this 55-gallon garbage can that I have. I clean it out and I fill it up with water, and then I use that for the household stuff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And again, so that's just me, but here we are.
All I live on out here. I only live on rainwater here, dude. I have to catch every fucking drop.
Really? Oh yeah, because you're out in the boonies though, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have to get water delivered through a truck. Like our well has way too much boron in it, which is incredibly. We have toxic levels of boron, so we have to get water delivered. And you know, so people can know, I'm in the cannabis industry. I'm a cannabis cultivator. And I don't know if you guys know anything about those sweet succulent babies, but they love to drink water. So, yeah, so it's, but we just had a huge rainstorm come through, and it was like every single drop that comes down, every gutter, I'm just catching it. I got pumps going everywhere, hoses going everywhere because, yeah, it just doesn't rain out here. It's just super, super dry. It's just the Cali life, man.
Is this the right guy, Longo?
Yo.
Hey.
Hold on, I can't hear anything. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna mute my mic for a second.
Yeah, Narco, you're muted, bro.
What's up, Shem? I don't know.
He muted his mic, but
we can just continue till he pops on, I guess.
Just making sure it was the right guy, because it wasn't the guy who I thought it was gonna be. So what are we going to be getting into today? Because obviously we want to talk some architecture. I know Romie's got a bunch of really interesting stuff. Are you going to present something, Romie, or do you have a PowerPoint or anything?
No. I mean, I have my Antiquated Transhumanism PowerPoint. That is a thing, but it's a full, like, it's built for flow. So like I would start it and then it would go through a thing. But we're not doing that. But we can get into, if you guys want to hear a spiel of what my research of Antiquated Transhumanism is, I would love to maybe just get Dr. Longo's opinion on it. And Brother Shem here.
For those that on my show, they know, but homie Romie was the one that got me into the whole Flagler stuff, the occult Florida. He was the one that came here to Florida, and he was blown away by what was happening in St. Augustine. He's like, hey, dude, have you ever looked into this Flagler guy? And I was like, kind of, sort of. And that was a whole rabbit hole. And that was before Longo was making Florida videos. And we had done a bunch of episodes on it. And then I was just browsing YouTube one day, and I came across this old world Florida guy. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And then that friendship was born. But yeah, can you explain to us what it is, the whole resonance architecture and all this stuff, antiquated transhumanism?
Yes. So I just want to start off by saying I have family in Kissimmee, and I went to Florida for the first time ever. And growing up here on the West Coast, you know, you hear so much trash talk on Florida. Like, it's just a thing, right? It's like coastal battles, like East versus West and all that. So, you know, obviously I'm not a hater of anywhere on the planet. I think everywhere is fucking dope. Like there's nowhere I'm going to be like, that place sucks. It's just not my style. Right. So I didn't really know what to expect about Florida, but the second I landed down, I was encapsulated. The energy was nuts. Like, it was amazing. Florida's sick, and it's awesome. And I can't wait to be back in a month's time. So then I got swept away by my intuition. I was like, there's something going on here in Florida that permeates deeper into like some bigger questions, like esoterically and tied into some occult. Like I just knew there was. So then that's when I got into the Flagler shit. And then that just blew my mind, blew the cat back. There's just connections being made left and right. And it ties into the antiquated transhumanism, or what this theory is. And it's basically just looking at all of the esoteric and occult history riddled throughout antiquity, and looking at these different tools that are continuously being showed in Renaissance art and different pieces of esoteric art, with the crown, the scepter, and the globus cruciger. And these three pieces of, I like to call it technology, are found throughout so much art that it's inseparable. The crown, the scepter, and the globus cruciger are used in a Holy Trinity fashion to make a human battery to expand the consciousness in the mind. Because that's exactly what cathedrals were built for, is to accentuate energy, to encapsulate energy, and to like a mnemonic device to be able to tap in to the cosmic intelligence, intuition. And so that's why it was held, like they say that the crown symbolizes royalty. Well, the crowns are made from alchemists that were hired by the royal courts, and they would amalgamate these golds with certain types of minerals that could either magnetize it. And when you put a magnet directly compositioned with gold onto your head, and you yourself are a body of electricity, then you are extending that. You're tapping in to some shit. There's other symbolism with the crown being connected directly to the stars and the cosmos. And that's a symbol of you're tapping into that. It's like, and why I call it antiquated transhumanism, because transhumanism, one of the main proponents of that is Sir Elon fucking Musk, my arch nemesis, right? Elon Musk is my arch fucking nemesis. The son of a bitch got me kicked off Instagram. You can't talk trash to a billionaire, apparently, because they can't handle the heat. But then he goes and starts Twitter, where you can just talk all this other shit. Whatever. Neuralink. Okay. It's a graphene mesh that goes onto your head, taps you into a cloud. And I was like, that's transhumanism too. Like, that's like it right there. Right. To me. And so I was just like, okay, what are these ancient ancestors of ours doing? What are the people of antiquity doing with these different types of tools? What is inside the globus cruciger? The ball with a cross on top? You know, is it mercurial fluids? Is it blood? Is it semen? Like, what is in there? Is it the philosopher's stone riddled with a tincture and they're sipping on that? Is it adrenochrome? Who the fuck knows? But these tools themselves work in unison to create the Holy Trinity that you can also find in the battery, you know, positive, negative, and the mercurial fluid in between. That's how a battery works, right? You can't just wear the crown and tap into it. You can't just have the scepter and wield a spell. And you can't just have the globus cruciger. You have to have them all three, and then put that on top of electromagnetic hotspots and sacred sites. And there you go. I'm incredibly caffeinated. I'm just going hard. It's also 3 hours earlier for me, everybody. So I'm going to shut up now, but that's antiquated transhumanism.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. That's another thing that got me. You started with the architecture stuff, and I like to look at it from like an occult perspective. I know Longo looks at it from the whole Tartarian ancient civilization aspect. Yes. I want to know what they were using these buildings for. I believe that they were talismans of some sort, and they were charged, but I'd never really thought about the creation of the crown. And that's really interesting that the alchemist, right? They made the crowns, and it would make sense that they would also infuse something else into that as they were making it. And then the Neuralink connection, because you have literally, there are articles, and I pulled it up when I did that presentation on Tinfoil Hat on the homunculus, where you got Bezos and all them talking about looking for the elixir of life, of eternal life. There are people freezing their bodies, trying to come back. Again, it's all connected, and it all goes back to alchemy. And we just got done doing a hour-and-a-half episode with Analog. Was really good, and we got into a whole bunch of stuff. And I kind of just sat back and listened because it was really interesting. But we linked all that, you know, the ziggurats, how they were trying to emulate these mountains and all these things because they're trying to. It's like the whole Tower of Babel story where they're trying to get to the Godhead no matter what. Then you have the Masons who are all about building, connected to Pythagoras. But yeah, that crown, there was somebody in the comments that was like, crown doesn't equal corona. And I'm like, yes, it does, bro. You know, yes, it does. What do you think what's it called, Romie? The globus how do you say it?
The globus cruciger. And it's crazy because when you look at old alchemical pictures, right? Any Rosicrucian art, not so much in like the kind of the modern Freemason art, right? That's more of just like the tracing board and the pillars, but a lot in Rosicrucian art, and there's all the alchemical texts for sure, like the majority of them. But there's a lot of those, and we were talking about this, you know, with your homunculus work. Like the baby Jesus, right? The aspect of baby Jesus and how he got reverted back into the baby. So the younger Jesus also holds the globus cruciger and the scepter and the crown. And so, you know, you see all these like alchemical workings and you're just like, what is with it? Like there's something deeper there. And that's what I've been trying to find. Obviously it's not written in just plain clear, like this is what esoterically the crown symbolized or anything like that, you know. It's just not. Yes, here we are.
Yeah, I had some people asking what it was in the chat, so we got
well, if you think about it, it's really just the Ankh upside down.
Yes, that's exactly it,
with the fake Santa globe Medici ball that they
Medici's
have.
balls.
Yeah, the Medici testicle that they have, and that's the Pope. The Pope's the Jesuit double cross, pretty much getting stabbed into it.
Yeah, and I have you're right, brother. Like it is absolutely, that blew my mind when I found that out. That was months later on the research, right, where I was just like, it's a fucking Ankh. So the homage of everything stems back to Eastern mysticism, right? Everything
it's also the alchemical symbol for alchemical Earth. And astrological symbol for Venus.
Oh, upside down. Yes. Yeah, there right side up is a different alchemical symbol as well. Yeah, it's Earth upside down, or Earth right side up, and Venus upside down.
Well, Venus,
which is fucking mind blowing too. That connection, right?
Venus is in astrology there is no Earth, so Venus rules the Earth. Venus is the earthy planet. Venus Day is the earthy day. She's the goddess of the hunt, so she's like wilderness, nature, every aspect of it. So
Venusian, Luciferian,
so
Lilith connections.
Yeah.
Somebody said the holy hand grenade. What are there? This is just a hand grenade of some sorts.
Shem, you want to touch on that a little bit?
I've just heard that the ball on the cross was possibly called the Liahona in Mormonism, and there was a story that I've heard about in Mormonism where there were people in America that were led by the Liahona to leave, to escape. I forget what the event was they were escaping from, but it led them to America apparently.
Well, Liahona, the lion is the sign of Judah. And Leo, what did you just say? Liahona. Leo. Well, that clearly has Leo in it, and like the Medici lions that have this ball under their paw, the lion is the symbol of Judah, the artificial Judah, and the true one. But it's the lion nonetheless.
What's the name of that thing that you were covering the other day? homie Romie, that nautical piece that they found at the bottom of the ocean that looked like a, you know what I'm talking about, like this.
Yeah, fuck, dude, I can't remember. Unfortunately, actually, I have it here in some of my tabs saved. So like, it was like an astrological clock, a gear of like a bigger astrological clock that they found. There's a name for, you guys probably know the name of, an orrery. Here we go. An orrery is a mechanical model of the solar system that illustrates or predicts relative positions and motions of the planets and moons. And so it's like super steampunky if you type in ORRERY. And this is steampunky too. Look at this, the Leahona. That's, I mean, it's absolutely, yeah. So this is an orrery. It's a version of like a clock that would work on different magnetics and gears.
I'll find it. It's not, that's not the one that I was talking about. The one I was talking about was like encrusted, like patina all over it, and they found it at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was a piece of this, or like what they consider an orrery, which is something. So it's called the Antiquated mechanism.
Yeah, I've heard about this thing before too.
Yeah, I'll share it with you in the chat here, brother, and you can screen share that puppy, because I butchered what the fuck it's actually called. But just thinking about like history in the sense of like building huge gears, like I have this really great book that I got. It's a PDF that I have on my fucking computer, and everybody should go get it. I was fascinated with magnetism, magnets, right? Like I was like, I need to know the history of magnets. Like, when were magnets discovered? And this book is called The Lodestone, and it was written in 1200. And it when they
that's great, isn't it, Juan?
Yeah, we were literally just talking about this, bro, on another episode before this one, and you bring it back up.
Yeah, really? We were just talking about
what were you guys going in on?
Getting stoned, dropping loads.
We were going on in a whole bunch of stuff, bro. I don't even know what was happening, but it was awesome.
We were talking about lodestones, bend stones, umphalos stones. Yeah, but yeah, continue. But that's crazy. We just hopped off a call, going off on that exact stuff.
I love that, man.
Me and Juan.
It's because the minerals are important. You know, when you look at, I always tell people, if like you want to find like the ancient fucking family bloodlines that are like holding money for the longest time, it's people who have been controlling the mines and the mineral deposits. Looking at the work of Buckminster Fuller and mapping out the world on a sacred line site, the sacred lines, sacred sites of the world. Why it's so hard to actually get a real answer on that is because it's possibly some of the most important information regarding Cinnabar mines, gold mines, and stuff. I was doing an episode earlier today, recording it with this wonderful woman. She's 81 years old, and her name is Marty Kane. She's been dowsing and teaching dowsing and geomancy for the past 30 years minimum, maybe even longer. But her grandfather was came to America from Lithuania, and he was known as the water wizard up in New Jersey back in the mid 1800s, because he was a dowser, and he was known as one of the most famous dowsers in that area. And he brought his dowsing knowledge all the way from Lithuania. And dowsing itself was, it's considered geomancy, one of the 7 sacred sciences of the Renaissance science and of the medieval sciences: hydromancy, aeromancy, geomancy, necromancy, palmistry, and I probably missed one. But anyways, talking about the architecture, how did they find architecture? Was through dowsing. Or no, they didn't find out. How did they find the sacred sites? Was through dowsing. And the labyrinths, right? You see these labyrinths all over the place. Well, they say that you can build a labyrinth to build yourself a portal. Basically, the labyrinth is a design to encapsulate specific, hone in on energy, earthen energy, and be able to connect to the psychic ether. And that's why you see labyrinths in places. And that blew my mind. but it makes a lot of sense now after talking with Marty today.
We were just talking about with Analog about the Olmecs, how it's pretty apparent they were taking mushrooms and pretty much doing like a hands-free dowsing, where you just take enough mushrooms, you can just kind of get into that, see that field, that spectrum naturally, and basically they would chase if I'm paraphrasing him, they would chase these serpent lines, right? Like this serpentine energy that they could see in this like tripped out world, the astral plane, whatever. And they would follow them to where a lot of them converged. And when there was a convergence point, they knew to build a city there, basically.
Whoa. So and that relates.
What are you saying? What are you saying? Whoa, Juan, you were just on the call where you explained that.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying it just now clicked, bro. You know when you know when you're it's for the cinematics. So it makes sense because people, I don't know if it's LSD or psilocybin, where people experience telepathic communication when they're on these drugs. So it makes sense, right? Because the whole thing with the mushrooms, it's a piece of the world, a piece of Mother Earth that's talking to you. The little mushrooms are little teachers. And I remember when I did my first trip, the mushrooms were telling me like, hey, you know, people are a cancer to this world, and the ice is melting and the elephant seals are falling to their death. And I'm crying as I'm watching this documentary of the elephant seals tumbling to their death. Yeah, bro, it was so crazy. My first experience on psilocybin. And then I saw Baphomet as well, but that's a story for another time. But
you saw those seals and then went straight for the Baffy.
Yeah, bro. So the idea that people are able to somehow feel the energy of the world, that would make a lot of sense, right? Because it makes you think where all these cities came to be from. It wasn't just because, look at Flagler, look at JP Morgan, all these behemoths of corporations, all that stuff. They picked these certain places for a certain reason.
Yeah.
Not just because, but because of the astrological alignment. And then you brought up that guy that designed the Epcot ball, right? What's his name? I forgot how to say it. You just said his name, homie, Romie.
Me? Did I?
Yeah, the Buckmeister Fuller or something like that.
Oh, Buckminster Fuller. Yes, yeah. Buckminster Fuller, the geodesic dome guy.
Yes, and especially that, right? We're talking about like Disney, and I don't know if you got into it, Nargo, where you said why did they pick what they picked to build it on? You know what I mean? Like out of all the places, they had to pick this swamp.
Disneyland, I know it, dude. Bro, the connection is nuts between California and Florida. There's definite geodesic energies going on there, but the Disneyland itself was built on the 33rd degree parallel, and he built the entrances to Disneyland to go straight through to the carousel, where he said when they were building it, the energy from the parallel, from the ley line, from the earth would be picked up, and the carousel would spin it out and create a toroid around Disneyland to make it the happiest place on earth. So like they were totally tapping in to that, and then to have Buckminster Fuller create that ball, right? Like they're just saying like, hey, we are using sacred places. We are using that. Disney uses magic. They're like they've never been hiding the fact that they are using it. They're the epitome of the Hollywood,
They have one of the largest banyan trees in the world in Legoland.
Wow.
I think just outside of Orlando.
Trip.
Yeah, it's in Lake Wales, actually, near Bok Tower, I think.
Is it? I thought it was more towards like Titusville, maybe.
Legoland? There's one over by like Lake Wales area, Sebring area over there.
I could be wrong.
Could be full of shit, bro.
I can't wait to get back out there.
It is a Legoland, and it's one of the largest banyans. It's ginormous, basically.
That's dichotomous and ironic.
It gets into the whole.
They also have some of like their water parks and stuff are basically tapped into the Florida aquifer. So they're just getting, some of
sense.
their pools are like chlorinated, but I think one of their parks, I don't know if it's Disney exactly, but one of the theme parks uses the aquifer. So it's fresh spring water coming up. And
they have Disney Springs now too. They changed the name recently. It was Downtown Disney for a long time. Then it was Pleasure Island, I believe. And now it's Disney Springs. Ooh, and I don't think it's a real spring because if you look at the water, they like, it's just a fountain. But it's weird that they named it Disney Springs and what you're saying about using the water from the aquifers and all that stuff. But imagine, dude, the occult AF Disney in his prime coming around scouting. You think they were doing mushrooms and dowsing around Disney where to put the castle, the giant phallus of a castle out there? That's probably what they were doing, bro. 100%.
Bro, they want to make us think to believe that LSD was created in the 20th century. You're out of your damn mind. LSD was synthesized and created a long fucking time ago. Alchemists have been making drugs for so goddamn long, synthesizing psychedelics. That's just the theory and the thought I came up with on the spot. But I'm sure that shit. The Philosopher's Stone is a drug. Alcohol, alchemy, right?
It was ergo.
Yes.
Ergo.
Yes, exactly.
The rot on the wheat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the grains produced the same. And then I think it can also form underground in like caves. That might be MDMA. I could be tripping.
Which would make sense with the secret societies wanting to go underground, and there is a whole underground
caves.
There's a whole underground complex at Disney too, and so speaking of the elites and the occult, somebody in the chat brought up J.P. Morgan's pocket watch, and I'd never heard about this, but it's a double-sided pocket watch that had a map of the heavens on one of its two dials, an intricate display whose complexity nodded to the mechanical masterpiece ticking within the solid. So,
can I tell this story?
Yeah, dude, go ahead. I've never heard about this.
So I tell this to almost everyone that comes into my bookstore. Basically, especially if they're asking about astrology, I'll tell them. I usually hit them with the J.P. Morgan quote. Millionaires don't use astrology. Billionaires do. Now, this man, and I also got it wrong. So I got two things wrong when I tell this story. But thank you. So I always tell people it was a wristwatch. Well, I guess it's a pocket watch. But same deal. You had the regular time with two hands. And then you had these, I don't know what, 5 other special hands, it looks like, that tell you 5 or 7 maybe, that can tell you the movements of astrological bodies. And this is the same man. So the second part that I get wrong when I would normally tell the story is that he was scheduled to go on the Titanic, and he had a VIP suite, right? Like one of the largest on the boat, and he didn't show up the day of. But his competitors, his rivals, the Astors, were on the boat and sunk. Well, what I got wrong was not only was he scheduled to go on the boat, he actually was like the leading funder of the boat. So he helped fund to create the Titanic itself, and still skipped out on the launch day.
Maiden voyage, right?
Right. So now, regardless, what treachery was at play where they sunk it on purpose, of course, but he knew it was going to happen regardless, astrologically, and he spared himself going down, because he knew this stuff. This is how he was such a good investor. He was able to see astrological movements and could foresee a very bad,
financial astrology is fully a thing people can get credited in now. It's because astrology is no easy feat. Like, you if you actually want to become like get licensed in like astrology, it's serious schooling. But now they have such good computer programs and AI for it. Like, it's kind of crazy, which is sketchy, right? That's pretty sketchy. I don't fuck with that.
I love how it says here, the watch's creation 112 years ago must have seemed like a bit of alchemy, and operating a brush with magic. So,
Nice.
yeah, this thing is a pound, almost 2 pounds, bro. Golly, I'm sure it was solid gold. So think about that. I mean, the alchemist, gold, the transmutation, all this stuff. So that would make a lot of sense, though. I never connected those dots because after the Titanic, that was when, you know, the Creature of Jekyll Island was created, if I'm not mistaken. You have the Federal Reserve, and then shortly after that, you have World War One. Then you have the Great Depression. You have all these things happening, and from there on out, you know, the rest is his story. So yeah, this is really interesting. I never heard about this before until that person brought it up on the.
You know, that the pocket watch reminds me of the clock in downtown Prague, I believe it is.
Don't get started on Prague, bro.
Yeah, the astronomical clock.
Yeah, we're basically they didn't really know what the fuck it was for, because no one understood astrology. Well, it's a fully functioning astrological clock, because whether you like it or not, our timekeeping system and the calendar is plagiarized from tropical astrology.
Absolutely.
So our whole calendar is astrological. They've merely moved it 10 days to the side so that it doesn't coincide with, you know, the changing of the months used to coincide with the changing of the zodiac signs. And they moved it 10 days off. So now it's very hard to keep track of, basically. And they renamed everything, and they placed the new year, and by they I mean the people who
the lizard people. It's okay.
The people who set our new clocks,
Vampires,
so to speak. They placed our new year in the sign of business and death, Capricorn. And there's a lot of good in Capricorn, but it is what it is. It's winter.
Yes.
It's the lowest point of energy, of vitality. It's a dead zone, so to speak. It's a sterile zone. So by putting the new year, which is supposed to be socially the most celebrated time of year, by putting it in the sign of business, we are brainwashing ourselves into being corporate zombie slaves, because we celebrate our, recircling of life energy in a time where it's not proper to do so. We should be celebrating our new year March 21st every year, when the sun has its most energy, nature has its most energy, people have their most energy, and it would be positive, and the world would immediately start going in a better direction if we put our new year in March 21st.
Yeah, because March is when everything is being reborn again, right? That's the whole thing, spring and all this stuff. And it would make a lot of sense. And not only that, but think about the whole daylight savings, how that throws people. I mean, it throws me off by a lot. It drives me insane. I'm at least, off my game for a month after it. And we're the only country that does that, no? Like the rest of the world doesn't do it.
Did you hear? I think it was a Native American said, like a Native American chief, I think, said only the United States government is stupid enough to think you can take a short blanket and cut the top off and sew it to the bottom and think you have a longer blanket. That was a chief said that about daylight savings when he heard about the concept.
Yeah, it's a fractal nature, man. Like psychology of mind control is like, it works like that, you can shake the blanket or whatever, for as long, and it's as long as it's moving, you're looking at it, you can slowly hike it up, and it's shorter, but it's the same. I don't know. There's a fractal association with the psychology of humans, and like if you just do implement something with enough surety and a long enough time, it's bound to be completely ingested into society. It's crazy. And the changing of the calendars it's not a small feat. Like, that's a big fucking deal.
Well, people always get lost, I feel like. And they'll always say, our time's been shuffled around so much. What can we believe? Our time is meaningless. Our calendar's made up.
Mm-hmm.
No, don't get lost. Don't give up. If you learn just a little bit of astrology, you will be grounded in that which cannot move. Okay? The heavens, they spin, but they don't move. So if you can learn just a little bit of astrology, and anyone out there, you will understand how it's all just, a sine wave, to quote Santos Bonacci, how it's the ecliptic.
How you guys hear about Santos and all his debauchery that's going on with his?
No, what's going on with that?
there's like this guy, Santos started his school in Mexico.
Yeah.
He started this school in Mexico with this guy who was like, before he met Santos, was just like a trickle down businessman, like a pyramid scheme business guy. And apparently, he got Santos to make this, because Santos had hundreds of thousands of followers. Like, he had hundreds of thousands of people that were like, that were like huge fucking proponents for Santos Bonacci. But then, like, he got brought down by some YouTuber, made like this documentary on his business partner, and then Santos made a rebuttal video that was just like, fuck your fucking mother. If you talk that shit again, we're gonna come and we're gonna pound your mother. Like, all this shit. Like, just, I was like, damn, Santos, like the vegan, wise homie, he's just like, I was,
are you sure?
It's crazy.
No, I don't.
No, I mean, I saw Santos Bonacci in the video. Yeah, him and his partner, like, doing the rebuttal video. I didn't know about the documentary, like, if everything in that was true, but like seeing the rebuttal video was like, I was like, damn, that's like such a harsh response to somebody who has, like, not as big of a following. Anyways, it doesn't make everything that Santos, his research that he did for years, invalid, because he had an outburst of rage. Hell, if you guys could see all my outburst of rage throughout the year, dear sweet Lord, it would be a horror film for some people. It's lonely up here in the mountains, man. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, Barley. I'm actually the guy who posted the documentary.
Oh,
for real?
Shit.
Yeah.
All right, so we're dropping that bomb right now. Okay, I mean, sure, that's you. Shit, it's on my channel too. Fuck you guys.
But yeah, those rebuttal videos were pretty intense.
Wait, you actually made those videos?
Yeah. This is the guy, bro. No,
I'm not.
That's crazy. Oh,
but yeah,
were you you're not fucking with me, or you're not the guy?
No, I'm Tartarian Truth. I'm the guy who posted those videos.
Sick. Oh, cool.
Made those rebuttal videos.
Dude.
But yeah, that entire situation was crazy. The documentary is more of kind of just questions. I mean, they could have easily just answered the questions. You know what I mean? Instead, they've wasted weeks just.
You did a great job.
Been doing.
No, I fucking loved it, dude.
I mean, honestly, the documentary was a group effort, but
expose those fucking cock shamans, dude. Like, that's some most cock shaman bullshit I've ever fucking seen. You're taking in some pyramid scheme wannabe millionaire cuck boy, and with somebody who is actually probably, like, at some point was awesome. Like, I don't disbelieve that Santos Bonacci was a good guy at some point, but dude, like, it was a dwindle, man. Like, you straight up started a mystery school for profit.
Yeah, it's really strange. I don't know.
I think the chat just, like, it went right over their head, so it's fine. There's 141 people here, and I don't think anybody said anything about it.
Good, man. Hey, you know what? If you can't handle the heat, get out the kitchen, son. You feel me? Let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
I've had it with all the
anyways.
All the flowery acceptance. You know, we got to hold everyone to a high standard. That's what I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, there's enough disinformation going out, out there, and enough advantage. People are getting taken advantage of enough, like if there's it's such an important time to like try to be meeting in person and like, I don't know, traveling around and not feeling stuck to one place. If you feel like you can't up and go from where you're at right now, you got to look and see what's really holding you down. Like humans are supposed to move around, and to go places and to go experience and travel and talk to more people, and not, that's just the most important thing, man. Like trying to broaden our experiences by boots on the ground research and boots on the ground going out to places, which I know y'all know because y'all be doing that on your channel, and that's dope.
I'll put those boots down in your mom's house if I need to.
Let's go. Hey, my mama is this shit, bro. You guys want to come over?
This fucking guy. So yeah, anyways, I feel, I don't think it's anyone's job to wake anybody up. If they want to take the message for what it is and wake up themselves, I respect everybody and whatever they want to do with their lives. You know what I mean? Like, as long as you're respectful, I think that we can all coexist. And it's like, with the whole truther community, like, it's not our job. It's not my job to wake somebody up and push my ideology on somebody. It's they can take it for what it is, and eventually just plant that seed, right? You just plant that seed, walk away, and just make dope content that resonates with people, and the rest will come. So, but yeah, that's thanks for letting me know you guys are gonna do that.
It's just heartbreaking to see the truther community become similar to what we were trying to escape from initially. Like the leaders of the truther community have started to behave exactly like the establishment. They censor people. They act like they're above other people when in reality we were all just trying to escape from that to begin with, which is why we started being open to this information. It should never be about this is 100% the answer. We're always open to everything. That's why we're in this community. You know what I mean? We're open to all information. So when you see someone saying that they have all the answers, it's just a huge red flag because no one has all the answers. We're supposed to be open to everything. And that's one of the main reasons why I started doing what I was doing, was because I noticed that people who I looked up to started behaving like, what pretty much ruined society.
Damn. You did a great job, man. I love it.
Yeah, let it be clear that they're big Santos fans, by the way. So not that they don't like him, but just to be clear on that. So
yeah, I mean, Santos is like, the research he's done was incredibly deep and great, and he has incredible insight on a lot of well-read stuff.
Santos is, I'll unashamedly say, I think was, possibly still could be the number one truther on the planet, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Whether it's language, syncretism, astrology, enough Tartaria to still, get by. He knew everything. He's amazing at guitar. I listened to his songs on Spotify. If you guys haven't,
oh shit, he's got a Spotify page?
Yeah, too. He's a very good guitarist. I have nothing but love for Santos.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome. So yeah, the syncretism thing, because I mean, I dabbled in and out of Santos's work. I haven't like gone so deep down it, but I am fascinated with the concept of syncretism and the stacking of cultures on cultures. I think it is exactly what we know as history. This is syncretized. But it was interesting. Like, I didn't understand what he was calling syncretism, like, because my understanding of syncretism is, and I'm hoping to get some clarification from y'all, is literally like stacking a culture, your culture on top of another, and almost like kind of putting a mold, taking what was sacred of one place and then putting your own religious mold and spin on it.
I'd say that might be like the Oxford Dictionary definition of syncretism, like
the exoteric,
attempting to force parallels between different faiths. I would say his definition of syncretism is more like Neoplatonism, where they are synthesizing religions and they are drawing undeniable commonalities, archetypes, and the mother of all archetypes is the zodiac, because that which is in the stars has always been there, will always be there. Everything down here moves and changes. Even the pyramids have changed and, altered in form a little bit. So everything down here is unstable. Everything up there is stable and will forever be stable. Okay, regardless of any Phoenix event or any, whatever bullshit Santa bottle you're on. Everything is going to stay up there. So if you're tuned into the astrology, you know that, What were we talking about? I forgot.
I was just talking about syncretism, what syncretism is, and
Right.
like the hijacking and of cultures, like homage to the ancient Greeks and things like that. Fuck yeah. No, astrology is the most absolute and important thing in some of the sacred sciences, man. I mean, Pythagoras understood that. Everybody's if you ain't down with that, y'all need to wake up. But a good thing that everybody listening is in fact down with that. But the architecture and astrology, the reason why they got that beautiful letter A there, the monad, that is the archetype of all language and goodness. The angels and the angles, the sacred angles of ancient masonry and the purpose and function of the goodness.
Don't get me started on Anglo.
Oh, there we go. Yo, what's your cornerstone? You can lay down some cornerstone goodness on your Anglo perception.
So here, I'll throw out a controversial, something people never like to hear. English is the oldest language on the planet, bar none. It is the oldest phonetic language on the planet. It's in use today. Now, what does that mean? English does not belong to England, okay? And even within that, the people who live in England today are not necessarily the original English. English, you can trace back to the two oldest languages in the world, okay? And people say Sanskrit is the oldest. It's not the oldest. That was brought down into India from the northwest. So couldn't have been that. You have Phoenician, right? Because from Phoenician, you have Hebrew, then you have Greek, then you have Latin, then you have, French and English, basically, or Dutch and English, French and English. Well, so what does that mean? Well, English is a Latin language. No, it's not. You can start in the North Pole, and you start with Proto-Germanic, right? Proto-Nordic, whatever. And from there, you can go from the Proto-Germanic to the German, to the Dutch, to the English. And you have runes, which is the oldest written language in Europe. You have the runes that go all the way along that, tracing that. So Florida, I'm retarded. I'm taking too many Florida pills. You can trace English back to the old Germanic. So how is it that it's this Latin descendant, but it's also descended from the oldest Germanic language? That's because it's the intersection point between the two. And basically it is Anglo. It is angular writing system.
Yes.
It is not English. It does not belong to England. Those come from the same root word, but Anglo is Phoenician. Phoenician because it is using hard angles. We were just talking about this with analog too. Masculine text versus feminine script. There's two methods of writing. and we are pretty much cut off from one of them, the feminine script. Some of us are lucky enough to have learned it in school, right? Well, the masculine text is like the business language that was exported across the world by the Phoenicians or their predecessors. And basically, it is phonetic language. You can teach it to anybody on the spot because each letter has a sound. So you can teach someone it immediately. So this was interfaced across the world and taught to people roughly around the same time that agriculture and domesticated animals were, probably by the Phoenicians or the Vikings. And basically, there you go. That's your English. Now you go around the world today. What is the language that they're using to interface between all worlds languages? India,
Yeah.
and they have someone right next door that's Chinese. Believe it or not, they're more likely to be speaking English between the two of them because it is the commerce language of the world today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it is the modern Phoenician. It is the living form of Phoenician. Some would say it's a.
I saw this.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
No,
I didn't mean to interrupt, brother.
No, I'm all good.
Oh, I saw this really dope. Like it was like a carving of like a piece of wood that had been drawn into like a specific shape, and every way that you would like spin it slowly, you could spell out the alphabet. And I'm sure you could probably do that with like a bunch of other things, but it made me think of when you're talking about the angular, like the specific angles that are there to the masculine side. It was like the way that it was diagrammed to move. It was like it was all one shape, and that was like that blew my mind, honestly.
Are you talking about how Hebrew is made with the inner core of the apple?
So no, this was on the specific English alphabet, but I didn't make that connection before. That is tight.
So yeah, all textual language, angular language, is like either a cast shadow or cast light, if that makes sense. Like fractal light getting cast onto an object or cast into a prism, basically, where you're seeing, for example, with the Hebrew, there's a video out there where you can make the Hebrew language with basically this tool that is a cross section of an apple. And by using the cross section of this apple, you open up the apple and then you have like this shape. Well, with this shape, you get the different letters of the Hebrew alphabet, right? And basically how it's twisted and how the light is casting the shadow from this shape will project all 22 of the letters.
You said there's a video of that?
There is one. Yeah, you might be able to look it up. Hebrew alphabet apple.
That's mind blowing, dude, because I'm thinking about, I love like you were going on the history of language, right? And where it comes from. And I think you're 100% correct, because if we believe obviously what the schooling system tells us, when we're learning language, that history is complete garbage and it's complete trash. And the deeper I look into the symbolism of each letter in the modern English alphabet, the more I find that it's an ultimate crypt. It's a cipher. It is itself a cipher.
It is a fractal too. Every word is a fractal, because within phonetic language, every sound has a letter. Okay, well that's reducing it to like its bare components. Like one sound is one letter, right? Well, when you do that, like we say W, right? Or you might say F. Well, F is a symbol, but what are you saying? You're kind of saying a vowel and an F. So then you can spell it out again. You can flip the word out inside out, and W, which has a sound. Well, now you have to spell W. How do you spell W? You have to use, right, 6 more, 5, 7 more letters, right? So that's how the runes are too, where it's and the Hebrew alphabet and the Kabbalah, where it's, I can't think of one. The runes, Laguz, I was, I can't think of any others. Ketu.
They're fractal shapes. If you take the rune and expand it, you get a literal shape, like a bigger shape, like a geometric shape.
But each rune is made up of more letters. So each rune has a name, and each name is spelt with runes. So what are those letters made of? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I have a
same with the
website
Hebrew,
pulled
like
up.
you were saying, like Aleph. Oh yeah, pull it up.
So there's a website, but I'm not seeing the one with the apple, but I do have some diagrams. Somebody on one of the chats told me the channel that had it. So
nice.
And also, isn't there a video of cymatics making the Hebrew letters too? Was it through, or am I wrong? Is that another?
That's.
I don't know about cymatics, but
I think, hold on, it wasn't here somewhere. Was this it? Because it looks like
it's an apple. It's like a guy with a ponytail holding like an apple in his hand.
False alarm. Let me find it.
Nice. But the cymatics thing is super interesting too, because talking about the sounds are really, really, really important in the harmonics of implementing the celestial knowledge that goes into a language, right? Whether it's a spoken language or a written language, there's deep symbolism going into each and every piece of that puzzle. And
Juan,
like the ancient Greeks and their Kabbalah. Yeah.
Juan, if you want to search dance of the Hebrew alphabet, dance of the Hebrew letters, that'll pull it up. Dance.
So you said a guy with a ponytail?
Yeah, dance of the Hebrew letters in YouTube, and you'll get the video for sure.
Okay, is this the guy right here?
Yep, there he is. Boy, looks like a chupacabra.
Yeah, he does. This thing right here, this contraption.
Yep, that's the thing.
Oh yeah,
it's big.
Nice.
It's like a toroidal vortex in the middle of an apple core, and it replicates like the hand holding an apple, basically.
Wow, that's interesting too, because the lady I was talking to today about dowsing, she was saying that her grandpa, the Lithuanian guy, I asked her what the best wood to use for making like a Y rod is, and she said her grandpa used to say that apple wood is the best wood, which is I just thought that was cool because dowsing and using wood to find special sacred sites.
I found out yesterday that apparently your thumb is an extension of a wand. I didn't know that, wizard. But apparently, yeah, the wand. And I asked why. What happens if the wizard cuts his thumb off? Can you still, can you hold it like this and still cast spells? But you're talking about the wood, and I'm thinking of the Hollywood with the wand. But apparently, a wand is an extension of your thumb, which I found really interesting.
Wand is also
like that, like putting their thumb forward.
A wand is also an anagram for dawn, the dawn, right?
The dawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got DAW in there.
Is it actually
ciphers,
backwards?
Man?
It's almost backwards. Yeah.
So he's holding it. Yeah, that's really interesting.
So in a second he's going to In a second he's going to show you how it works with the shadows, basically.
That I'm thinking, dude, like the visuals I get when we're talking about shadows being cast from something to to symbolize like a written language. It'd be like, you know, if you wanted to like have like a watchtower or something, and somebody would be on top of the watchtower spinning the saying, you could cast a message onto the ground if somebody could see a shadow. Do you think something like that could work? What do you guys think about that?
It's like a sundial. I mean, I think we only know how to use the most basic form of sundials, where the needle is fixed and the sun does all the moving. Well, what if you had a series of apparatuses or lenses, right? That would basically be able to literally interpret the movements of the heavenly bodies directly into language, essentially. I don't know if you'd be able to read it, but a way to scribe down all these movements.
I'm thinking like obelisk, man. Like, you know, if there's another purpose or symbol for the obelisk, the way that the shadow cast at a certain time might point in a direction that would lead to like a place you need to go. Like you find the obelisk, and then at noon it's pointing a certain direction. You're like, okay, go that way. And then there's like a Rosicrucian tomb, and you got to like enter the cipheric code up here, poke it in, and then it'd be sick. What if obelisk or sundials, man? That's what I'm saying, baby.
Yeah, I mean that's also another. I think that's another purpose, right?
We were Analog just told us something, showed us something about how the Greek language was being used in colonial America. Basically, he was explaining how language is not just, this kind of ties into phonetics too, how language should not necessarily be the defining characteristic of a culture, because there are other applications of language other than just social and, you know, local expressions. You have, what were we just talking about?
About how the Greek language was at the base of everything instead of what we've been told.
So basically, he was saying how the founding fathers were calling upon, invoking the Greek language as if it were an entity itself, and they were like invoking it into the constitutions and stuff. How all these words that America holds very dear. Do you remember any of the words, Juan?
I don't, but it was like Theo meant God, and you rated that to Theodore Roosevelt.
Well, basically, Greek was used in a lot of the vocabulary that we use today, like liberty and stuff. They actually skipped, and I could be wrong about liberty. I don't speak a shred of Latin, but they were skipping the Latin and going back to the Greek to use this vocabulary, because they wanted to invoke the very qualities of the Greek people themselves in their society. So by speaking
syncretism right there,
by speaking their language, basically they themselves, kind of like how we were talking about ghosts.
Sympathetic magic.
Magic. Exactly. Yeah. You read my mind.
You're affecting them without affecting them, which it ties back into the architecture where they're using, I believe, sympathetic magic to influence the people within that building.
Think about it. There's always, even today, we build a building and you put a Latin date on it. Well, what the fuck? Why? You know, or you put a Latin dedication. You dedicate it to someone and it'll be in Latin. Why? Doesn't make sense.
And it would make sense to Greeks because they have all the gods and goddesses, all the archetypes that they have, right? And literally they've personified them. You know, they've made them into statues and monuments and all these things, right? Back to this whole and Romie, I'm gonna bring it up later, but yeah, I believe it's sympathetic magic, and they're using, right. What a better way than to be at the core of their language, right? Everything that they say, be at the core of that, like a little nod to you, sir. You know what I mean? Like they know. So yeah.
And when you consider that we have the Creek Indians in America, which Greek were they invoking? Was it the Greek in the Mediterranean, or was it the Greek here in America? The 5 civilized tribes, which the Creek were one of. So the 5 civilized tribes were these natives that the founding fathers, the colonial Americans were envious of, almost, because they were taller than the Europeans. They even owned slaves. You can debate how you interpret that, but they owned slaves, so that put them at the same level economically as the colonial Europeans. And they had sophisticated society, technology. As soon as guns were introduced, well, they had guns. So they were on par. They had horses earlier than anyone. And that's another thing we were also getting into. We didn't really get to touch on it when we were on that last call, Juan, but how the riders of the American plains, the Plains Indians, who admittedly have Asiatic DNA, because we're told all of them came from the Bering Strait, so that they do have Asian DNA. Even in the mainstream timeline paradigm, they have Asiatic DNA. Well, you have horse riders with bows, right, in packs, fighting in this warrior culture, traveling large amounts of territory, right? Shepherding in many cases, like the bison. Well, go to the Eurasian steppe and you have the same thing. The Mongolians, the Scythians, right? Especially the Mongolians, this Asiatic horde, maybe the Tartarian horde that crossed over into America. Well, I don't think those are Native Americans either. A lot of the horse riding Plains Indians look very Asian, right? Very, very Asian. And the farther north you go, the more Asian they look. And when I say Asian, I mean like a Mongolian, Chinese ethnic group. That's kind of what they look like. And the Inuits, the Eskimos, quote unquote, are very, very Asian looking. And they would have been the remnants of this phantom horde that came across and left a horse riding warrior culture. And that's who many of the Europeans were fighting when they got here. And those might not even be, quote unquote, Native Americans.
Yeah, well, in your opinion, do you think that the Native Americans were from the Asian region that you were saying, or do you think they're more along the lines of Moors? Because a lot of people say that the architecture in America was created by the Moorish culture.
I think it's pretty clear that the American South and California area were definitely dark-skinned or copper-skinned people. And the whole slave belt, the copper belt, was really just, the slaves of a war that they had just lost. And some of them might have been shipped over from Africa, but there's too many. And the Seminoles especially poke a million holes in that whole theory. The Seminoles, who are Muskogee and Creek, right?
There's connection between those the California natives to the Floridians too, and I think it was all one. But the Coquina, like you guys have, San Francisco. Before, if anybody here has ever been to San Francisco, imagine it before the 1915 exhibition, the Panama Pacific exhibition. it was completely different. It was a literal hub for indigenous peoples to get all of their fish. Like this, San Francisco was way more water. They built all over the entire water, and half of it is just basically synthetic land brought in. But why people are like, why is San Francisco so hilly? You know, it's literal old ancient mines that the entire mounds that the city was built on. But it's the Coquina too. And so what you're saying, it's like, yeah, absolutely. There's so much lore here with the giants lore in California. And, you know, the Lemurians living in Shasta is the other big Californian folklore that, you know, definitely is a thing. But just a homage to that, man, like, I think there was also potentially another land bridge on the southern half. And, you know, like, obviously with the shifting of the waters, I think that there was a lot more islands and connections here in the Pacific to get down. So the South America Asia connection, I think, is a lot stronger than we're ever led to believe, no doubt.
Well, you have the Indians, and then you have the Andeans. So Andes culture seems very obviously to be Indies culture. You have the Muskogee, and then you have the Muscovy over in Russia, pretty much. So you have Muskogee, America, Muscovy over there. You have the Maya in Mexico, and then you have Maya and Indian philosophy, and Maya being the name for all these different goddesses around the world. Maya is like, you know, it's almost like the archetypal female name, right? In so many of these cultures, or Gaia, right? So you'll have Maya be Venus, and then you'll have Gaia be the Earth. So it's the same deal. There's so many parallels. The Greek and the Creek, of course, the cypress tree in America, and then the cypress of Mediterranean. And the cypress tree was, we were just talking about this, sacred to the Phoenicians. Well, if anyone was crossing from America to Eurasia, Africa, it was the Phoenicians. So the Phoenicians with their cypress tree, Cyprus itself was a Phoenician colony. It's also where the cat was first. Was first domesticated, and the cat itself is a symbol of world domination. Why? Because every boat that crosses the ocean in ancient times had a cat on it, and the cats would keep the vessel clean, tidy, right?
Is that why evil geniuses have cats always? Is that?
Well, maybe. You know, you can watch my video on cats and decide for yourself if they're evil or not. I don't think they are, but they certainly embody a lot of those qualities, right?
Nice. Yeah, because we always grew up with the whole black cat and all this stuff. A lot of grimoires require, the Picatrix at least, requires you to have like the urine of a black cat and all this stuff. And then we have that, the parasite that cats give you where it drives you insane.
Let's talk about familiars, because that's a great way to bridge the cat world with like homunculus and alchemy. Basically, a witch need things to be an occultist, or to be a witch you need magical items, right? The knife, right? Like a dagger, a cup, a pentacle or a disc, a sigil, whatever you want to. Well, many of these systems, and you see those parallels across all these cultures, right? The Sikh people have their knife that they always have, a ceremonial weapon, right? So they'll have a ceremonial weapon. You'll have the sadhus do that too. What's so funny, motherfucker?
Lizard lives matter. He randomly showed that comment.
I'm sorry, I flashed this comment on the screen. Lizard
said, "What's
lives.
So funny, motherfucker."
We're not laughing at you, bro. We promise. We're just lizard lives do matter.
It's hilarious.
The lizard people do matter. So, sorry, continue.
I forgot what
lizards
I was saying.
Are vampires. Lizards equal vampires.
About the feline. So vampires.
Oh no, familiars. Okay, this is important.
All right, we'll talk about vampires later. All right, go ahead.
Yes, let's fucking do it.
Familiars, right? You were saying all these people have. What do they have? What were we just saying?
Familiars. They have
familiars because an occultist needs stuff to do magical stuff.
Right.
So.
Okay. So the familiar,
an embodiment.
Especially a lot of these Florida familiars. The way I see it is Dali had an anteater, right?
That's so baller.
Dali had anteaters on was that him or I think that was him.
I've never even heard of that. But that sounds
eccentric artist. I think it was Dali. It was Dali. He had anteaters on a leash. Hemingway had his 7-toed pixie bob cats. Yep.
How baller is that, bro? Walking my anteater around, son.
Yo, son, you don't want with me, son.
So, Narco, just mute yourself.
Juan.
Go ahead.
That's the anteater noise.
I was taking a hit of the bong. That's all I was doing.
Oh, all right. Yeah. So that makes you just blew my mind because that would insinuate that this is his magical talisman.
And Tesla, exactly. Tesla had his dove.
With the pigeons.
Tesla had his dove and his pigeon. Who else? Give me
Agrippa had his black dog.
Agrippa was fucking his dog.
With Tesla, he actually said that when he saw this certain bird die in his hotel room, he knew his work and his life was pretty much over with. I can't remember the exact quote, but
magnum
I
opus.
know what you're saying.
Now, something about the Greek that should be noted, and a big giveaway that the Greek were not the most advanced people in the world at the time. They were actually some of the most primitive, believe it or not. And you can dissect the timeline and debate if the Greek were even real. People blah blah blah. But number one, they did not have domesticated animals. They did not have domesticated animal. So they, I don't believe they had the pig, but they definitely did not have dogs and cats. So isn't that strange? You had all this philosophy coming out, and it's like a center of learning and agricultural knowledge, but they didn't have cats. Meanwhile, the Phoenicians had cats. The Phoenicians had cats the whole time, thousands of years before. Well, the predecessors to the Phoenicians. Basically, you have cats on Cyprus 7,000 years ago. That's hilarious.
That is
on the stage, bro. And look at his cane too, dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, bro. We're talking about wands and stuff. Look at this. It looks like
he's like
he threw it on this lady's lap. He just threw the anteater on the lady's like, here you go. Catch, bitch.
That thing don't just eat ants, baby.
Yeah.
Hey,
that thing's a pant eater.
Yeah.
I'll get you the core of that episode, baby. Come on.
You want to hear something about Dali? Dali's a Taurus, right? Now, what's Dali? What's the most famous thing about Dali?
Oh, his horns, dude.
Yep. And it is a fact, a proven fact. He would model his mustache for the sign of for his zodiac sign, Taurus.
That's tight.
He knew he was a Taurus.
Isn't there a Dalai Lama museum in Florida where you guys are at?
Yeah. In St. Pete, I think.
Dalai Lama?
Yeah.
We have
Salvador Dali. Sorry, no, the homie.
We've got Salvador Deli's if you want to get a hoagie.
No, but we do have a Dali museum in St. Pete in Tampa somewhere. We should probably go there too, but
I saw that. I was when I was looking up stuff to do, I was like, oh shit, I'd love to go check that out.
This guy's the real world Willy Wonka. He's like, dude, the swag that you have to walk around with an anteater. How baller is that, dude?
Absolutely.
I mean, but I
That's
never
Force
thought
vibes, though,
about
dude.
that. I never thought about how he's invoking his sign, right? And do they manipulate people in that with that?
Well, hang on. No, I think it's. I'll be upfront about it. I think it's a source of unlimited power if you can get in tune with this stuff. And I don't say that to entice people. I'm saying if you can understand what your zodiac is, you immediately know more about yourself than the person next to you, assuming they don't know anything about astrology. So
I
when
should
you
grow out the handles, then, right?
maybe, yeah. When you see in the movie Drive with Ryan Gosling, phenomenal. Right? When you see the back of his jacket in that movie, Ryan Gosling, he has a scorpion on the back of his jacket. Well, Ryan Gosling didn't come up with that, but the director of the movie did, because he knew Ryan Gosling was a Scorpio. So you give the scorpion a jacket. You know, if you gave him a fucking jacket with a turtle on it, the movie probably would have been dog shit. It's not that black and white. But
Hey, turtle symbolism is tight.
It is, but you know, so there is a way that you can use it to manipulate. Then, right? Is that what you're trying to get at? Not trying to entice anybody, but
that's what I was saying. Is that it doesn't have to be. It can just be an organic thing that you can implement to help yourself. But the directors, what I was getting at with that is the directors and the people pulling the strings, they usually know everyone's astrology before they even get on board. You saw that thing that just went viral with was it Beyonce or Jennifer Lopez, J-Lo. She had like some audition or something, and when the audition started, she said, okay, everyone who's a Virgo, you're just sorry, not interested, go home. So she sent home all the Virgos for, you know, she was like trying out dancers, and she sent home all the Virgos right off the bat without giving them a chance. So why is that? Well, I can tell you, she's a Leo, Jennifer Lopez, and those don't go too well together, but I'm sure she has her own reasons, you know, and she has her own calculations that she's done, or her team has done for her. And they know that a Virgo is not going to work. You know, there's too much money on the line to leave anything up to chance at these higher echelons of society. So they always have the astrology ironed out before they do stuff.
And to touch on the Hollywood aspect of that. Oh, go ahead, Shem. Sorry, brother.
That's fine. So do you think the websites that pretty much explain astrology to people on a daily basis, like all these horoscope websites and stuff like that, are they accurate? Because if you live in a city, which they try to get most people to do, you can't really see the stars at nighttime, so you can't really keep track of it by yourself. So
yeah,
I guess where do people go to find out this information?
My favorite website, Shem, thanks for asking. Great question, buddy.
Yes.
You go to astrotheme.com is the best website. Astrotheme. THEME.
Nice.
Astrotheme is the best website because it gives you a circle chart. Basically, some people do their birth charts and they just get a chart that has like a grid and it tells you what planets where. This actually shows you what planets where. It's a 360-degree image, a snapshot of the sky. I wish I could show you. It's basically like a donut, and your mom gave birth to you in the middle of that donut. And around you is the 360 degrees of the zodiac.
Stand out.
Yep. And you can basically see, oh, well, that's where Jupiter was. That's where Mars was. And it's a birth chart. So Astrotheme can give you a free birth chart. Now, when you're saying, is it accurate, like in terms of horoscopes or getting your quick little like daily horoscope, giving you random generalized information? No, that's probably bullshit. But if you go on Astrotheme, it'll show you where your planets are. So that information is objective. How you interpret that is subjective. So Astro Theme actually has pretty good automated meanings for your arrangement of your chart. But if you're looking in the newspaper, it's going to be garbage. If you're following someone on Instagram that just pumps out like a message every day for every single thing that happens, that's probably garbage too.
Word. Yeah. I want to touch on the Hollywood aspect too of the astro magic, because Juan, like when you guys were doing, I can't remember what breakdown you guys were doing. Was it HP, either Lovecraft or the
Parsons,
Jack
right?
Parsons episode you guys did? Those are great episodes. Anybody listening should go check those out. Awesome. Great crew. Panel is fucking tight. But bringing up charts of movies, like to tapped in directors that are specifically, for a fact, are like, these motherfuckers are so insanely tapped in, at the high echelons of the movie world, and the symbolism that comes throughout all of that. Like our boy, not Shyamalan. Oh God, no. Arthur C. Clarke, who's 2001 Space, Kubrick, the Cube
Kubrick
Break.
Stanley.
You know what I'm saying? When you look at the charts of those movies, they're literally astrologically lined up to what archetypes those movies play. And it's like, there you fucking go. Like using it to literally cast the spell for its success, 1, for 2, for the message it's trying to put out, and for 3, for whatever psychological warfare that movie might be trying to subtly put on some symbols into the psyche, using it with its Holly weird movie magic shit.
Well, think about
I 100%
think about it this way, right? Where, because this whole architecture thing, right, it's to invoke feeling, sympathetic magic. Well, how was it back then? It was an idea in the ether, right? And then it would come down into the mind. From the mind, it would go to a medium, either a paper or a model, and then you would give birth to the actual thing, right? So it's a process. And I believe that since the beginning of time, they've been trying to find a shortcut of how to manifest things quicker. So by using certain, what I believe is personal opinion, actors to portray certain energies, that was in some lizard person's mind, right? That character was in that. So it's in the ether, it goes into their mind, and then they give birth to it by putting and invoking a certain actor to go out and portray this character, right? Their homunculus that was in their freaking brain, they put it out into the ether, and they're like, hey, Johnny Depp, why don't you play this pirate, and da-da-da, and you play Edward Scissorhands, and you know what I mean? Like,
let me give you one, because I'm gonna do a series on this astrological secrets in movies, especially with actors in their birthdays. But one that I can give you for sure, Hellboy, right? You guys familiar with Hellboy? That fucking gay ass shit with the guy that just has the
Ron Perlman,
the hemorrhoid fist, basically.
Yeah.
So
I'll give you straight H with this boy.
He's got the fist of fury there, right? And basically, he is an Aries, right? Ron Perlman. Well, they just replaced him with a new actor to play Hellboy. And Hellboy, the new guy, I forget his name, David something, I forget. He's also an Aries. So hell and boy. Well, if you know anything about the zodiac, Aries represents boy. It's the archetypal boy zodiac sign. It's the most masculine sign, and it's the first sign of the zodiac, so a young boy. And hell, it's fiery, it's hot. Aries is from hell. Aries is like the demon of the zodiac, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that is Hellboy. So they know that you can't have a water sign playing Hellboy. You need an Aries playing Hellboy. So basically, they had the old Hellboy.
Is Ron Perlman's an Aries?
Yeah, I believe so.
Nice.
So that's why it was a flop. Somebody in the chat said that movie sucked.
Well, the movie does suck. It's a terrible concept. Like I said, it's terrible, and but you get the idea.
They didn't have the Marvel money behind it, you know.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Let me give you a better example of a wonderful movie. Lawrence of Arabia. So basically, Lawrence of Arabia, my favorite book, 7 Pillars of Wisdom, was turned into a movie. And
what?
Yeah, Lawrence of Arabia.
That sounds tight.
Lawrence of Arabia is the story of T.E. Lawrence, who was, I don't know if he was a lieutenant at the time, but he was a lieutenant basically, and in the British English army in Egypt, and he single-handedly helped overthrow the Ottoman Empire in World War I, basically. And he was a Leo, so you look at his role in history, he was a Leo. He was a leader. The word leader comes from the word Leo. So he was a leader, and he went out there. He was the only white guy in Saudi Arabia, and he basically had to win over this tribe and convince them to join his side. Kind of. I'm oversimplifying things, but only a Leo could do that, if you understand. Well, when they came around to, because that's what Leos are, they stand out in the crowd. That's what they want. So to be the only white person in this whole country, this whole tribe, was pretty much the role that needed to be fulfilled. So when it came around to them making the movie, basically, it was like the greatest movie of its time. Had a big budget. It was filmed all on scene out in the. It's crazy. One of the greatest movies ever. If you look up any list, right, it's right up there with Kubrick and Citizen Kane. And basically, when they went to film the movie, who did they choose to play the actor? Well, they got another Leo. They got Peter O'Toole, who is also a Leo. So if you have, the best way to do it is to have someone play. If someone's playing a real person, have them be the same zodiac sign. The new Elvis movie was terrible because Elvis was a Capricorn. The guy that they had playing him was a Leo. That will never work, right? He came off way too self-absorbed, basically.
So why do they choose the wrong people if they know that this is going to happen? If they, you know what I mean? It's going to throw the whole movie off. What?
Well, not everyone has this to help them out. You know, some might get handed it on a silver platter. Other people might have to do the digging themselves, like Stanley Kubrick, I believe, penetrated all this occult knowledge himself and just kind of stumbled into it and didn't know what he was doing with a lot of it. But let me give you another example. Stanley Kubrick himself had a lot on his plate, and a couple movies in, he knew he was going to need an assistant, but not just an assistant. This assistant had to be able to do all the things Stanley was capable of doing, knowing how the lenses worked, knowing how the lighting worked, knowing all the occult stuff that no one else could learn, even if they did have a talent with filmography. So blah, blah, blah. He had to start someone from scratch and teach them pretty much everything Stanley had learned. Now, what did he do? Well, Stanley Kubrick was born. Let me see when Stanley Kubrick was born. It was August 7th or something like that. Okay, sorry, July 26th. So he hired a assistant, basically, to help him, or he was looking for an assistant. Now, the assistant that he settled on, okay, has the exact same birthday as Stanley Kubrick. Now, this assistant is not just any assistant. This assistant literally was his slave, who gave up his name's Leo Vitali. So his parents named him after the zodiac. Leon Vitali, because he's a Leo, July 26th. And basically, this man forewent a very promising career in acting in order to be Stanley Kubrick's personal understudy. And he pretty much never got paid, ever. He was Stanley Kubrick's shadow for 20 years. And at the end, he never really...
Familiar?
Did he have a familiar?
Was that his familiar? His homunculi familiar?
That's funny. No, but I'm saying if you know you need someone to step in your shoes exactly, well, your own birthday is a good place to start.
Wow.
Okay. For real.
How'd he die?
Stanley Kubrick, I think they said he died reaching for a can of oxygen. So I don't know if it was like lung disease or lung cancer. I don't know. Cardiac arrest.
Can I cut it on this real quick?
Sure.
From my understanding, him and the entire crew that worked on the moon mysteries, on the moon landing shots, were actually hunted down because even though he was basically hired to do the shooting of the moon by the president himself, because the president was, this is well known. This is all exoteric information at this point, that what's his name? Not Nixon, or was it Nixon? Whatever, the dude with the fucking nose, right? Whatever that douchebag president's name was. He basically, hired Kubrick to do the things, and then slowly but surely, because they got petrified that somebody was going to spill the beans, that who filmed it, what crew it was on, so on and so forth. Everybody that worked on that set or worked with Kubrick during these times was actually slowly killed, and so then Kubrick had to flee the country. He had to go and hide out, and so I think his death is honestly a pretty big mystery, or if he ever did die too, if he's still maybe potentially hiding out. That's actually a big conspiracy, is what the fuck happened to Kubrick? Do we believe the story or do we think that he's hiding from the fucking CIA still or whatever?
Well, that's what people think is The Shining is him admitting to faking the moon landing, and then Eyes Wide Shut is him regretting admitting to the moon landing. Right?
What the fuck? And The Shining, the kid has a homunculus in his finger too, by the way, so they're hinting at the homunculus.
Mm-hmm. Well, his dad fucked his mouth. That's why. That's how he got the homunculus.
Yikes.
If you ever watched The Shining.
Yo, can I share my screen, Juan?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to get you guys' opinion on this, taking it back to the architecture stuff. This is a book by Vitruvius, who is Vitruvius is the OG architect of the Western world. He wrote the book, the 10 books on architecture, and it's not really a super cryptic text or a super alchemical text. It's pretty straightforward for the most part. But it's still, it's an interpreted text. So I think you're only going to get so much out of it. But I did think that this excerpt was interesting because we were talking about, I heard you guys talking about in a show before, the electrostatic energy that a lot of these geopolymers create, or these specific constituents of laid brick, right? Or made or created brick. And it's funny because I was looking up before this show to see what the biggest mineral deposit in Florida was. I was like, what minerals are they pumping out of there? And there's a lot, but the biggest one is phosphorus, which wasn't super significant. I was looking for like something else, but it is actually significant when you think about the largest phosphorus deposit potentially in the world, and there being such a large fossil recovery there in the Bone Valley. Anyways, getting off topic a little bit. I'm just going to read this excerpt and then I guess we'll talk about it. It says, music also the architect ought to understand, so that he may have knowledge of the canonical and mathematical theory, and besides be able to tune the balliste, the catapulte, and the scorpions to the proper key. For to the right and left of the beams are the holes in the frames which the strings are twisted sinew and stretched by means of windlasses and bars, and these strings must not be clamped and made fast that they will the same correct note to the ear of the skilled workmen. For the arms thrust through these stretched strings on being let go and strike their blow together at the same moment. But if they are not in unison, they will prevent the course of projectiles from being straight. And theaters, likewise, there are bronze vessels which are placed in niches under the seats in accordance with the musical intervals and the mathematical principles. These vessels are arranged in musical concords or harmony. And I was like, what the fuck is a scorpiones? And, I know what a catapult is and stuff, but, there's all this talk of like, sound weapons, right? It's a weapon, but it's also associated with sound. He's talking about strings, but I'm wondering, it's like tuning these weapons.
Well, exactly. I know what he means. It's like when you take a rubber band and bring it to tension, you can pluck a note, and if you pull it tight enough, you can get like a bum bum bum, right? You can pluck it like a bass, right? And by changing the tightness of this rubber band as you pluck it, right, you can actually play different notes. Like you can play Seven Nation Army with a rubber band. It's right. So what he's talking about is when if you're stringing a machine, if there's a cord or a band, like a cord, a rope at tension,
a tuning key,
you will know if your machine is going to operate based off of the you'll know if something's at the right tension based off of the pitch it plays back to you when you strike it, right? So if you need to wind something and it's being held at tension by a rope, well, you need to check that rope by checking its pitch, and you'll know that it's holding the right amount of weight, or it's applying the right amount of force, basically. So you can almost equate sound to like pitch to force, or like mass, or like some equation of energy, right? Energy exertion to an exact pitch.
Oh, my bad. I was gonna pull up a Scorpio weapon because
that's it. Yeah, that's a scorpion.
No, but I took his screen off by mistake.
Oh no, that's good. I was actually trying to get out of that. It's super fascinating because there's a lot of talk with the Tartarian tech about like copper cannons and things being like using the concept of using like mass vibration or sound wave or some sort of like EMP type of energy to disrupt your enemies is something that's like it's there, like, but we can't quite find like the real evidence besides like the the horns of Jericho, and that type of thing. But I'm wondering like the crossover and the correlation between this ancient tech that we're missing, this mercurial fluids of strange ethereal knowledge that they had, and the sound and the resonance and all the things, man.
You're muted, Longo. Oh.
Sorry. Something me and Juan were talking about on Coquina Cowboys episode 1, available only on Patreon, Basically, we were going into these cannons. How the cannons on these star forts allegedly were being sighted in for 2 miles away, and one of them could shoot 5 miles away. Okay, well, if
are you guys talking about the copper cannons at the Star Fort in St. Augustine?
No, they're Fort Jefferson. What were they called?
Pull them up now.
What were they called, Juan? Basically, these cannons, these rifled cannons, they say were able to shoot accurately 5 miles away. Okay, well, if the longest bullet like ever shot is less than that, you're telling me they could shoot a fucking 50-pound cannonball 5 miles at a moving target, moving as fast as the fucking wind? Are you retarded?
It's the Rodman cannon,
dude. That's it. Like that's what we're talking about, though, man. That's it. With when they implement of the copper cannon, that's what it is. Like these other cannons, like you hear like a lot of these cannons don't even work. Like we can't operate these cannons anymore. The ones... So like what we're told about how they work is not even legit. I think they were using magnetic force. I think they were using another piece of the architecture itself that would enact through some sort of shape, some sort of resonance that could, like when there's the concept of like some of these sacred sites or the vimanas being floated and used had to be in use of the architecture itself. Like in order to float this rock structure to this other rock structure, you had to have the person operating it with whatever type of know-how of the stone vehicle, and then being on a sacred site to another one, and the resonance and the magnetics and all the things.
Bro, this thing is the 15-inch Rodman's cannon weighed 49,000 pounds and required 300 to 400 soldiers to move them, and then the balls that they shot were 500 to 600 pounds. Bro, show me a video of somebody loading this thing right here to take down Moby Dick or whatever.
Apparently the Mythbusters tried to do it, but they like failed miserably and shot into like a neighborhood or something. I don't know the exact story.
And that's the smaller one too. There's another one I think that's like 20 something inches. That was
look up the copper cannons. Look up copper cannons. Sorry, go ahead, Doctor.
The ones in the fort, Fort Jefferson, the way that they're tucked into like these corners and have their barrels like sticking out of these tiny little holes, right? No one would have been able to go up to the front of that cannon and get a 500-pound.
This is how they did it. Look,
up over their shoulder into the. Oh my God. Look at that. They say that they rolled it into the barrel uphill.
Bro, this is how they did it. Okay, this is
1,000 fucking pounds. But I guess you got pulleys, and I don't know.
.gov. I'm sure they're not lizard people, and if they say this is how it's done, I believe them, dude. Come on.
For sure.
You guys actually believe that these cannons were made back then, or you don't think there's props for trying to make some kind of story today?
I think it's
no. They definitely are. I think so.
I think it's two things: money laundering, 100%, because they never use these things. And if we're talking about Fort Jefferson, they never use these things. So money laundering. I have a buddy who knows a buddy who works at a shop where they make these custom. It's gonna cost X amount. Yeah, go ahead, pay him out, whatever. You won the government contract. He's a buddy. Give me a cut, et cetera, et cetera. And then I do think that they were for show because they had no practicality at all. Like they weren't practical in any which way, and that's why they never used them, because they knew that they weren't practical, and then they just put them out as, hey, they're history now. You know what I mean? And
well, I mean, think about it. Think about nukes, right? Like this whole thing about nukes being fake. Well,
we're going there.
What if at any given age, at any given time period, the most destructive weapon imaginable is actually imaginary? So exactly, it's psychological. Oh, you can't. What are you going to sail your ship in there? What are you, crazy? They have 15-inch cannons. They have a 50,000-pound cannon. You're like, Oh my God.
Longo, but how about Hiroshima? How about Nagasaki? Was all that fake?
Okay. Now, have you ever seen a city after a fire bombing, carpet bombing, complete fire
Have
bombing?
I seen one? No, I have not.
They could, yeah, they could.
So basically, these allergies, the hurricane is kicking up my allergies like crazy. Basically, hang on, I have to sneeze.
The wizards are at work
Let it out,
making
baby.
Longo sneeze. He can't even answer the question about what happened at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, bro.
Sorry, dude. I just got my
A text
my chakras switched off. What were we talking about again?
about
Copper
you
cannon.
said copper cannons.
Nagasaki.
And then you were saying,
Oh,
have you
yes.
ever seen a firebomb city before?
Yeah, dude. Fire bombs. So basically, you ever heard of what we did to pretty much all of Western Europe during World War II?
Yeah,
Well,
have you ever seen pictures of Dresden after World War II?
Hang on, you're not allowed to say Dresden.
Dresden. Oy.
I'm pulling up pictures of it right now. Yeah, it looks pretty.
There they go, talking about Dresden again.
Yeah.
It is.
Look pretty bad, but I mean, not Nagasaki, Hiroshima bad.
Let me see the pictures, because you might not be looking at the good ones.
Oh, I'm not looking at the good ones. Here we go. So that looks pretty bad.
Dude, it's
Well,
awful. I look at these pictures every day. So like every other day, I'm like upset about it.
Dude, this is the only thing that.
Yeah.
This is the only thing that will get it up for Shem. I mean,
Oh, dude.
Is this what does it for you, bro?
this is what does it for Shem. Unfortunately,
Wow.
this is what we're living.
Yeah. It's the
Have
project
you-
to basically destroy the old world and the Tartarian understanding, like all like those modern wars. Yeah, we're just destroying as much of the old world as possible.
Have you?
Well,
have you
another
ever
interesting thing about Japan is that a lot of their architecture didn't involve nails or anything like that. So it was like they're destroying much more than just
All right.
whatever
So
else.
Hang
are
on,
hurricanes direct energy weapons?
I don't know, but
Jim-
have you ever seen in Hiroshima how you'll have like devastated, flattened land, right? Like devastated right after the quote unquote nuke. But then you'll see these houses that have like a flag hanging down, and the flag is like a tapestry is still perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you have these pockets of things that are still left behind that weren't knocked down by a nuclear blast. If you had a nuclear blast, everything's getting knocked down, and everything's going to have the same amount of damage, pretty much.
So,
yeah, like there's
At least that's what they taught me in doctor school, of course.
What kind of doctor are you again, bro?
I mean, the list is so long, so many academic achievements. Where can I even begin? I don't know.
Golly.
so many pronouns.
Yep.
Yeah. We went from
gender. I'm a doctor I'm a doctor of gender studies. Veterinarian. Or
Esquictarian veterinarian.
Veterinarian, sex therapist.
So
we
how
went
easy
from-
is it to get a boat ride to the Bermuda from the Florida coast? Like, are there some Bermuda tours? Like, how can we hop on a boat and just be like, let's
we can't
go.
the Bermuda Triangle. You can't go over that, dude. You're not ever gonna make it.
If you got a couple of kilos of cocaine, you can make that trip, no problemo.
Pocket change, son. Pocket, that ain't nothing to you boys, son.
So we went from resonance architecture to nuclear weapons are fake and they're a psyop and it's psychological warfare.
Pretty much.
Is that why? Is that why they push people's buttons and they flex and all this stuff?
Dude, Kubrick knew this. Everything Kubrick touched was a dead giveaway. Well, you go back before you go back with oh my god.
I wouldn't trust you with the cat. Okay. Whoops.
I'm not the one who talks about fucking cum bubble homunculuses all day. All right.
Hey, people love the homunculus, bro. People love the homunculus. Everybody wants to talk about the homunculus. Am I putting out homunculus vibes, Dr. Longo? Is that an astrological thing? Does that have to do with my sign of Taurus because of the Earth? Oh. And homunculus are made from the Earth, right? Is it invoking some sort of energy? What's your professional opinion, sir?
I don't know. Yeah. I think what was it? What was I just hearing?
I have no idea.
What was that?
That was my homunculus talking, bro.
Was it?
There you go. This guy right here, Homunculus Lives Matter. This guy knows what's up. Atlantis Rising Podcast. Go check.
What's up, Atlantis Rising?
They know what's up. So yeah, what else? Because this has gone off the deep end.
Are we gonna get to some architecture?
Are we gonna get to some? When are we gonna be talking about the architecture, the transcendental architecture, Dr. Longo? Because I think we've talked about everything.
What I liked about your guys' like intro screen, right? Like the rose window next to the dream catcher. I really like that because there's so much symbolism that, you know, about the rose window. And there's a lot of things that are just written in many of the books, so on and so forth. What I liked about that cross correlation there, I thought automatically about spiders. I was going straight to spider's web and like spider symbolism, you know, because all the spider deities across cultures are very, very interesting, and they're a high echelon of a deity. And you know, the spider's web that is spun and the fractal nature of spiders and their secrecy is super cool. So I love that. I love the rose window dream catcher thing. I don't know who thought of that, but I'm a big proponent of that. So let's get into that.
All right, just one more comment. Hermo fleshlight. Oh, okay. Continue. So the architecture, and don't the Masons have a god that's a spider? I could have swore I read that somewhere in some conspiracy book. So that would make sense, the connection with the spider and the... Have you ever looked at the, I think it's like Middle Eastern architecture on the inside that looks like a DMT trip, where it looks like my painting or poster of Alex Gray, but it also kind of resembles the spider webs too, right? And the, what was it, the Bohemian Grove was like, no spiders welcome here, or something like that.
It's, I mean, yeah, like, you know, you think about like the Masonic tracing board or the magic square, and, you know, like almost like a cymatic pattern, like the shape itself. Like, oh my God, what blew my mind recently. Whoa, your TV with the fan in the back almost looked like a spider coming out. The 8 legs is very significant. That goes into, you know, old Norse mythology and theologies, and then also all of the Eastern and Asiatic mythologies that are about the eight symbolism stemming out from the central. So like the spider itself is almost the 8-legged horse of Odin. Like they talk about a black horse sometimes. So it's like a black spider that he's riding on, and he's able to go reach into each part of the Yggdrasil tree. So there's like, you know, I think the spider is a deeper connection than a lot. What is this though? I can't see. Zoom in.
This is shout out to Nick Hinton. It was a Nick Hinton's book actually that I read this, where in South Park, the god of the Vatican is a giant spider. The Vatican is run by the Freemasons, who allegedly worship Jabulan, the architect of the universe, who also looks like a giant spider. Giant 8-legged creatures represent the Saturnian demiurge because 8 represents infinity. That's an 8 on its side is the infinity sign. And Nick Hinton is a friend of the show. He'll be on again soon. And this is where I saw it. And also, I forget which demon this is.
There you go.
There
you fucking go.
That has these different heads. There's different. I've seen this before. But yeah, just an interesting connection.
On that a little bit, actually. Sorry.
I'll find the name of the demon. Oh, maybe not. Let's not talk about demons. But one thing that you said the other day on your stream, dude, that made me think was how you mentioned how vampires are the opposite of werewolves. And it made me think of alchemy, like the opposite of whatever ingredient you're using. So I thought to myself then, what if all these cryptids and all these monsters of antiquity are actually like alchemical references to a certain substance, acting a certain way, and they were just trying to tell us like this alchemical story this whole time with werewolves, witches, vampires, all these things together, and we're just taking it from a literal perspective, like, yo, here's a werewolf, it's a man who turns into a dog, which we know doesn't I mean, I've never seen it, doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like something like I thought it was like an allegorical type of thing for like alchemical.
So there, it is, because it's those are different. They're almost like different clubs. They're different pledges of like magicians. Like you're either a part and you're fulfilling a role, or like a magical role, almost like an archetypal role of like that club that you're in. So like I like to think about it like Skull and Bones would definitely be like a vampiric type of secret society, but what's right next to Skull and Bones is the Wolf's Head Lodge, and other folklores, the vampires are the highest magician echelon. They've founded the Fountain of Youth. They have found the blood is the thing that keeps them young forever without literally ever having to age. But the werewolves themselves, all of the stories that go into what werewolves are, they would put a cream on, they would go in a certain bath. There would be some sort of like transmutable liquid that would go into them as a substance, an alchemical liquid of sorts. But if the wizards themselves, the vampires themselves, or whatever type of like magical archetypal club you wanted to define yourself in, the work that you're doing, the deep work that you want to do to fulfill the magical roles that are, then I think that's where those things go. But I will say this, I think vampires are on top of werewolves. I think because the feminine aspect is everything, and then the shit comes, Dr. Longo, that's fine. But I think that vampires actually are more in control of the wearers. I do. I think that the wearers would actually work for the vampires.
You might be correct. Anatomically speaking, vampires are Neanderthals. Werewolves are Cro-Magnon. Okay, the people who would bury themselves with the red ochre and wear the red ochre were the werewolves. Because what is were? It's war. Well, it could be a war wolf, right? And the Aryan people were, Ares is the god of war, right? So the war people, and Ares is the ram, war is ram upside down, backwards, right? So basically, the Neanderthals had, if I'm not mistaken, bigger eye sockets, protruding jaws. So they were carnivorous. They were largely carnivorous, whereas Cro-Magnon is agricultural, largely, vegetarian. They might eat meat, but their agricultural diet is what makes them civilized. And Cro-Magnon would go out in the day. And these people were eternal enemies, and the war between the two of them is what resulted in the human race today. Word. So we are all descended in part from part werewolf, part Cro-Magnon. And a werewolf, if you're going to look at vampire, there's also a lot of dragon. Well, dragon.
It is the dragon man.
Dragon is to see clearly. Dragon, to be illuminated, right? To be initiated, to be the Phoenix, the Phoenician, right? We were just talking about the Phoenician was a rank, not a group of people, a rank.
The symbolism of transformation.
A degree of awareness. So a werewolf, well, what if it's an aware wolf? You are aware of a new type of being, right? You're aware of your own bestial being. You are aware that you are half beast as a human. You are not a dog, but you're a beast man, because you're divine light trapped in a human body, in a man's body. So you're half beast, and you come to terms with that fact. Whereas the Neanderthal is reveling in its bestial existence and never sees past its limitations. It's a bloodsucker. It comes out at night. They were stealing babies. They were, cannibals. Neanderthals were cannibals. Cro-Magnon was not. So you decide which one was the force of good versus the force of evil.
And they found themselves in places and positions of power, right? They found themselves in positions of power, and the more power you had, it seemed almost like the more access to the fresh bodies that you would be able to have and dispose of at your whim. You can hide in the shadows of the broad daylight. It's like I would kept doing, the more vampiric research I was doing, I was finding it led back to different royal houses and different higher places of power where they were using the body parts. It wasn't the lay people. It was rare that the lay people would, they were eating the agricultural crops, as to where the higher echelons were eating lots of meat, organ meats, and bathing in blood and all of these things. And then you look at things like adrenochrome now, and putting more cortisol into the blood would allow for that to be extra potent, that extra energy, the vitalization and the optimization. Then you look at the president, right? They got their blood bags followed around with them and their security, because if they get shot, they get.
Have you heard of Kuru? Have you heard of? Sorry,
is it the festival? The Kuru festivals in like New Orleans?
Kuru is basically it's a disease that you get from eating human. If you're a human, like it's a cannibal disease. So it's like mad cow disease for humans. It's called Kuru, and the symptoms, when you see people that eat human, they pretty much all get this disease that's like a brain virus that like rewires your brain and fucks your whole nervous system up. And basically you can see it in like some African tribes, the Agoris of India, and like the Hindu regions. And basically they like shake and they're like hyper and their eyes are like all wired, and it's very like observable what's the word? Symptoms of having this, right? Well, when you look at people like the pretty much the whole Democrat, the whole upper left of the American left, the Clintons, the Obamas, it all kind of seems like they have this Kuru, this cannibal bug, this cannibal virus.
Does this guy have a cannibal virus? Look at his hands, bro. How do you get hands like that?
Right. He has major sausage fingers.
They look like your fingers, dude.
What is it? Parifia.
Was it funny?
Parifia.
Parifia. Finger check. You gotta make sure.
Yo, finger check. Let me see those fingers.
Bro, these things are shredders, bro. Skilly, weep.
Dude.
Oh, wait. So you guys think that the people who control the world are reptiles?
I don't think it's that simple.
I think they're vampires. Okay, no.
So
Sorry. Real quick.
They're reptiles. Who do you think they are, Dr. Longo?
Well, I know who they are.
Yes.
You have levels, right? You have levels. At the end of the day, it's a non-being that they pledge allegiance to. Okay. So any type of intermediary, whether it's a fucking archon, a lizard, a gray alien, whatever the fuck these other humanoid things are that would be in between us and that, it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, they pledge allegiance to a pretty distinguishable evil entity. You know.
So where do you stand? Because all right, we've talked about this before about how the archons might mean something. We've talked about all this crazy stuff. Where do the aliens come into play in all of this? Because I've been wanting to ask that, but I know we were going to talk about architecture.
Okay, well, let's just stop beating around the bush. There are no aliens. People need to get that fucking bullshit history channel jizz out of their ears.
Is space fake and gay?
Space is
ancient
fake
astronauts believe.
And gay.
Is it? It is gay. Okay.
There's literally, if you zoom in on every star, it's actually an up close ass getting banged for $1 million by Neil deGrasse Tyson. Every star, if you zoom in on it.
Make that meme, bro. Yeah,
Neil
and also
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
So like when it comes to all this symbolism within, like, we went from vampires and everything else to like religious texts to architecture, the symbolism in architecture, and even alchemy. What is the end game for all of that in your guys' opinion? Because we're kind of like, I guess if there are people that control the world, why is there all this symbolism and all of this stuff, and who is creating the symbolism and why are they doing it?
Good question. You go first, Narco.
Number one, it's all just like a big silly game at the end of the day. These Masons are kind of trolls. Masons, the rulers, they're trolls, and they're like the master trolls, and the people that are underneath them are not underneath them because they're not smart. There are plenty of smart, intelligent people that are up there that are deceived, getting steered in the wrong direction. What distinguishes the people at the top is their sense of humor. The people at the top are fucking trolls, maybe not in the sense that we are, but they are able to mock things that we would never consider mocking, like an entire genocide of a whole landmass, for example. Tricking the whole planet as to what is good for them to eat or what shape they live on. So what distinguishes
shit, dude, did you Sorry, Juan just pulled that shit up. Can't do that to me, dude. You know I fucking hate that fucking son of a bitch, dude.
I'm saying because you're saying trolls, this troll energy, this archetype, the Joker archetype, the DMT elf, machine elf archetype.
Well, it's Saturn. What I'm getting at is Saturn is like the supreme evil god, right, of these people, especially these organizations. You can see that because they all wear the yarmulke or the zucchetto, right? It's not just a Jewish thing. It's also a Catholic thing. They show who their allegiance is to by wearing that. And basically, Saturn rules tragedy. Judgment, constriction, tyranny. Well, actually, Tyr comes from Mars because Tyr is the Germanic name for Mars, tyranny. But Saturn is Satan, of course, but it's also satire. So, there is a trapdoor escape through every constriction. So if Saturn is this god that rules the world, right, the physical world, the Lord of this world, as it says in the Bible, Satan is the Lord of this world. Well, if he rules the parameters of this world, how do you get around that? How do you avoid aligning yourself to Saturn? Don't take things so seriously, because that's how he runs the game, is by siphoning out negative emotion. So you have to have comedy if you wish to avoid tragedy, right? Shakespeare, comedy, tragedy, comedy, tragedy. masculine, feminine. He's teaching you about the universe. So you have to wake up and smell the coffee. If you can laugh at it, then you've already transcended it. You know what I mean? If you can laugh at the situation we're in, being enslaved, controlled, whatever, then you've already transcended it, so to speak. Because go look up your astrological dictionary. Saturn rules comedy and tragedy, and Capricorn as well, because Capricorn is the sign that Saturn rules, which is the goat, which is Baphomet, right? The goat. Capricorn is comedy. Well, who's the funniest person on the planet? Jim Carrey. Well, he was. Jim Carrey, Capricorn. Well, who's the most serious person on the planet? I could probably name two. Denzel Washington, Capricorn, right?
And Joe Rogan.
No, he's a Leo. Who am I thinking of? Nicolas Cage, Capricorn.
Hey. Hold on. I got this. Hold on. Stand by. Let me get my soundboard. Fuck.
Hail Nicolas Cage.
Hey.
Nicolas Cage.
And if you want to...
It's interesting that you say it's satire, because I was thinking that a lot of the stuff, like the Bible and movies, and you have the same stories in all these different aspects of life. You can't have a TV show or anything without having the same stories within it. So I was thinking that it's possible that the controllers just created all this stuff intentionally just to kind of brag about the things that they've done in the past, if it's been the same people in control for a very long time. Does that make any sense at all?
Yes. Now, also, to touch on Nicolas Cage, if you want to go down a deep rabbit hole, okay, Nicolas Cage. Nicholas is Saint Nicholas, right? Who is Santa Claus, who is Saturn. So Saturn is Santa, but he's also Saint, because Saint is an anagram for Satan. Satin, satin, which is what you clothe people in when they die. Satin. Satin is used in like funeral processions, basically. So all these words in the satyr. What's a satyr? A satyr. You have the half goat man. That's a satyr. Well, hello. It's all astrological symbolism. But also Nicolas Cage. Well, Saturn rules confinement and constriction, right? Bondage, ropes, cordage, things that confine, right, or constrict. So Saint Nicholas Cage, he is like an archetypal Capricorn, or a Saturn, a Saturnian. He's very Saturnine.
I love Nick Cage. He's amazing. So, anything to conclude? Any concluding thoughts on the conversation that we just had? Because again, I went all over the place. But any concluding thoughts?
Well, we're probably just never going to do this again. That's for sure.
Was it too much for you, bro?
Yeah.
Your anxiety.
I'm teasing.
This is the first live too, right?
I think this is the first time I've been live on my channel. Yeah. Juan hijacked my channel. He told me we were going on like 5 minutes ago.
Nice.
I bamboozled you, bro. Yeah, I'm gonna start posting as Dr. Narco Longo.
You're right.
And yeah. But any
the homunculo docto.
Shem is holding out on us. I think he knows more than he's putting out.
I don't know. See, that's the thing, is I don't know anything.
So why the fuck are you here?
I don't know. You hit me up and asked me if I wanted to come. I said,
why the fuck are you here, bro?
I wasn't
sure.
Yeah,
we gotta do another episode.
Florida or something. So I was gonna talk about some tunnels in Pensacola, stuff like that, but I don't know.
Do you live in Florida?
No.
But what an imposter.
He called me yesterday and said, "Do you want to do this?" And then said we'd probably be talking about Florida. I was like, "Sure, whatever." I mean,
Well,
I've never done a live before. I've never done a live before, so I guess it's just kind of just doing it just to do it. You know what I mean?
Well, you brought Juan.
Yeah,
you brought your boy. I didn't know how it was going to go down, so I brought my boy.
Yeah.
So you brought your
Quadrivium,
homunculus, and I brought my homunculus. I want to see them fight now. You know what I mean?
All right.
Wait, we should do like a chicken
ultimate
fight,
wizard
like,
battle.
Like Romie gets on my shoulders, like in the Zoom call.
There we go. Oh, yeah, like that straddle.
Yeah.
Yo, let's get the fuck out of here before it gets too gay. So you guys want to plug your
sweet.
social medias?
I think we successfully talked about absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Almost the whole time.
Yeah. We glided pretty well though. It was a fun glide.
Yeah.
Time well spent, honestly. It's fun. I
enjoyed it.
Rising from the Ashes podcast. Check it out. We also have a new podcast with a friend, Kaylee Burkana. It is called The Moon Mysteries, and we're going to do 2 episodes a month dedicated to the transits of the moon. And she's the astrology wizard, and then we are doing an interview with people on their concepts of the mysteries of the moon and all of the crazy shit that goes on with that. So Rising from the Ashes podcast, the Moon Mysteries podcast. Check it out. Thank you guys for kicking it. Fucking just the guy who grows weed in Cali. So it's always good to, to have these conversations with the homies.
Yeah, guys. So definitely don't check out that. But I'm just kidding. Shem,
don't do it.
Shem, you want to plug your bullshit real quick?
Yeah, if you want to watch some pretty mid comedy, I have a channel called Tartarian Truth where I just highlight various truthers in the community. I also do parody videos on there. So if you're really bored, check that out. Other than that, thanks for tuning in. Have a great night.
That's mainly why Mr. Shem, why I invited Shem was he wouldn't make one about me one day.
I wanted to do a parody of that Saxer documentary, like just have a homeless dude walk around and just talk about random shit. But it ended up, I love that documentary, so I don't know.
See what you did there, bro.
That would be hilarious.
Hopefully, he doesn't do one on me. They're actually do one on me just to see what comes out.
Oh, I could do one on you.
Do it. Just put one out on me. Put out a hit piece on me.
There could be the annual podcast roast where you have a bunch of other people come and roast one person.
No, but
season.
That's a good idea. A roast would be good, like Tartarian roasts. Like and it wouldn't even be consensual. Like the person getting roasted wouldn't know they're getting roasted. Like it would just be a gang of us getting on and like watching Archaics, pretty much. But
I would love that.
Something else that I have to thank Tartarian Truth for is he really pioneered the art of pinning the most toxic comment in your video. So take the most toxic comment, like vile comment on a video, and pin it to the top and just like see what happens. And half the time they just take their own comment down because they're too ashamed of like their own comment. But basically,
the toxic behavior is one of the most hilarious things about my channel. Like I didn't expect it because when I made these videos, I was like, these are so bad. There's no way anyone will ever watch them. And then suddenly people just start showing up and saying negative stuff, and I'm just like at work seeing this, and then I start cracking up. I love it.
That's the magic, man. You did the spell there, dude. Like it worked super well.
Yeah, like invoking that Elon Musk energy, bro. I see you, bro.
Elon Musk is weird though, because he said comedy is back on Twitter, and then he immediately bans people who do parodies of him. Like that's really weird to me. Sorry, it's random, but
I'm telling you, it's been a beef between like I was on sitting in my bed like over a year and a half ago, and I was just like calling him a hoe. I was like, SpaceX is a hoe. You're a hoe, Elon. Like just call him a hoe, and then Instagram like, and I went on like about the jab and shit before. Like I would do a bunch of crazy live videos, just like being outrageous about the Covidius Maximus, and then they didn't say shit. The second I called Elon Musk a hoe, they banned my Instagram. I was like, what the fuck? That's
like,
so
no,
ass
he's
backwards.
not a hoe.
I was like,
you're a
you're
hoe.
I was like, this guy controls the fucking internet, dude. He's definitely up there with. I wouldn't be surprised as to see what really does happen. Because dude, they're wiping the shit clean on the internet, bro. Some places you can't find the dopeness anymore.
Anyone who is knuckle deep in Grimes cannot be trusted whatsoever.
She's a necromancer, so
I've seen her on stage, dude. She is twirling and whirling. Like, she straight up is. Have you guys seen Grimes live?
Dude, she's stuck in like the brain of like a fucking 7-year-old.
I saw her at this festival up in Washington a few years back, like before she was with Elon, and she literally like she does like almost doing like twirling on stage, like doing back bends and everything while singing. I'm like, yo, this chick straight up is like next level. I was like, and then next thing you know, she has a baby with Elon Musk, and they name it QR7 QR code. You're like, what
QR code?
Grimes and Elon, that don't make any damn sense.
They have a ton of babies though. It's weird. Everything about that situation is super weird to me.
Dude, they're fucking
so weird.
We gotta go balls deep on what's her face? The ugly one, the chubby one that just did Aquaman and was on Johnny Depp's wife.
Amber Heard?
Amber Heard.
What do we gotta do?
Oh, she's chubby, man. She's clinically obese, dude.
This fucking guy.
You ever seen her?
Let's get the fuck out of here. I'm gonna end the live. Catch me at the 101 podcast, the101podcast.com.
Thanks,
it's getting
guys.
too dirty. Later, guys.
It was nice meeting you, Romie.
You too, man.